Hi, my name is Woody.
Hi, Woody.
I keep telling myself that my next pond will be my last one.
Hi, my name is Mickey.
Hi, Mickey.
And I was told I was supposed to be here. What? Like 3 pallets of koi food is too much? It was on sale.
My name's Devin.
Hi, Devin.
I promised myself just one more koi. That was 47 koi ago. Can we smoke in here? No?
Hi, my name's Ty.
Hi, Ty.
I just purchased a fish that cost more than my first car. I don't regret it.
Welcome to Koi Keepers Anonymous. It's the show where we get together to see who has the coolest t-shirt collection.
I want to start with Woody because I really like the story of how your journey in koi. And we kind of touched on it a little bit in the previous episode, but I love telling people about what you were able to accomplish in such a small pond and how much diligence it took. When we saw how fast you were growing your fish and how the colors were still all like really vibrant in such a small pond, we were like, oh my God, that's amazing. And then you told us what you had to do in order to get that and still keep your pond clean and all the fish healthy. That's like, oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah, I used to have a lot of aquariums. So in this room, I had, maybe it's not actually, I thought it was a lot, but now I see people on YouTube with like 40 aquariums in a room. I had like 5 aquariums, 5, 100-gallon plus aquariums in here at one point. And so I was used to doing a lot of maintenance already. I was doing a lot of water changes on these tanks. So, aquarium, fish work was not new to me. So I know that some people that get into ponds, they just think, oh, it's a self-sustaining ecosystem. I don't have to do anything, but I didn't have that, that belief coming in. So that was probably an advantage.
You didn't buy into the whole Wallstead method, right?
Huh?
No, not at all. In fact, I didn't even know about that until like recently, like a couple of years ago. When I really went down the YouTube fish YouTube rabbit hole, I discovered about, these people that do these techniques. But no, just very traditional aquarium keeping with a lot of filtration, heavy filtration, water changes.
What is the Wallstead method?
So this is kind of, Devin, are you familiar?
Yeah, I'm familiar. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
So
For a
I
second,
guess
I thought we were talking about fish things that you two didn't know, and I was surprised.
I was going to say,
So-
let me interject. I'll see. Maybe I know what it is. I could prove myself wrong here. But it's the idea of that you create like a balanced ecosystem in your aquarium where you don't have to do any water changes or like cleaning. Is that right?
That's pretty much it. In
Basically.
a nutshell, yeah. It's the idea of having like super crazy thick substrate, not needing to have any other filtration happening because you've created this giant base for your biological filtration to be growing in. And, you have it planted, you have like all these things happening to create an ecosystem that's self-contained.
There's this guy, Father Fish, that has a popular YouTube channel, and people argue, it's very contentious. So there's some believers and there's people that are like, oh, that's crazy. But I never went in for that because when you do those techniques, you have to stock conservatively and you have to feed conservatively. And I like to, I'm okay with stocking levels being moderate, but I like to feed a lot. So, I could never get away with those techniques.
like you mentioned, you're feeding a lot and you have relatively high stocking rates. It wasn't heavily stocked when you started because they were very small, but you were feeding. Can you remind me how many times a day?
Well, at the peak, it would probably be, maybe 8 to 10 times a day in the summer.
That's incredible. And it's not a little bit either.
As much as I could get into them, basically. Yeah. But that's within the boundaries of, my filtration, which I was always keeping an eye on.
Yeah. So Woody's pond, the pond that he was growing his fish in, is also had no bottom drain. So he was vacuuming his pond floor every day to the point where he broke, I don't know, 3 vacuums.
I was definitely on my 3rd vacuum. It eventually did break. So yes,
Wow.
I did break 3 vacuums.
You burnt out 3 pond vacuums.
Yes.
But it's like, you know what? I bought the cheapest ones. I probably could have bought like a really good one and had it last for a couple of years, but
Have you ever broken a vacuum? I think we throw away a vacuum to upgrade to a better model before we break a vacuum. Just saying.
actually I've broken, like I do break vacuums. Even our regular house vacuums don't seem to last too long.
Oh no, that means I don't clean enough.
Is your house cleaning, like, did that carry over to the pond? Is that how this happened?
It's exclusive for the pond. Yeah, and I remember too, you were telling me this story about, because I was always like, oh my gosh, it's a lot of maintenance that's required for this pond, and you're really diligent about it because it was eye on the prize. You wanted to grow the fish really big. You were telling me about this, I guess, Harvard professor or something like that you really admired because he was doing bonsai in the
right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Can you tell us that story?
Yeah, we were hanging out. He was telling me about his bonsai hobby, and he's, pretty high level at everything that he does. And so, he was telling me when he got his bonsai, he bought this really nice bonsai tree, and he basically had to like submit a resume and, an audition to even own the tree. The guy wasn't going to sell him the tree unless he really believed the guy could take care of it. But yeah, he's a very high achieving Harvard professor. He's like the youngest ever to be a Harvard professor. But, he was saying, yes, every morning at 5 a.m., 45 minutes taking care of my bonsai before I go to Harvard. So I was like, okay, I can do an hour a day, 45 minutes a day. And if I don't, I'm just a lazy bum.
Well, I guess when the baseline is like that high, and I am sure that it was a Harvard professor because you know that it was a Harvard professor.
Did he tell you he works for Harvard?
Because he told you.
This guy also teaches at MIT. This guy is like not just a Harvard professor. He's like,
Did you talk to a Harvard professor or did you talk to an alien? Perspective was changed when you were telling me that story. This guy who's like super high level, who's super extra, can do his own maintenance on his own stuff every day. Then why can't I?
Mm-hmm.
And it was just a matter of identifying what it is you want to achieve and actually like pursuing it.
I was only had the budget to buy small fish, but I wanted big fish.
So like you've had tropical fish and grown them, but koi, I mean, they're all fish, but I obviously think there's going to be differences. Did you apply what you knew from like tropical fish into growing koi, or did you kind of then recognize this isn't quite working and I need to tweak something? And at like what point did you realize you needed to change something in order to achieve the goals you wanted to?
No, it's very similar. I think, just the main differences are the temperatures. In an aquarium, you've got a stable, higher temperature, so you can do everything a lot faster. The new pond syndrome is like, so frustrating.
Exactly.
Something that is, it goes really fast in an aquarium.
Yeah.
How fast is really fast?
2 weeks.
Oh.
Because for ponds, it can
Maybe about a month.
range. Yeah. How long was your new pond syndrome, Woody, when you first went with the small pond?
I feel like it was a couple months.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least 6 weeks. And it's like incrementally, it's like, okay, just keep pushing it to where, okay, now it's filtering this much, but I really want to feed this much. So I can only feed this much and let the filter catch up and just keep inching it up.
How did you figure out like your filter's not processing the waste fast enough or soon enough?
Well, the first year, I think my filter was kind of okay. It was working. I knew I needed more bio and just, once I had built my pond, that's when I really went onto YouTube and started seeing everyone's ponds, like all these British hobbyists that have Nexus, and like everyone's got a biochamber, or not everyone, but it's very common.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd never even seen one before. We had like one of my tanks had like a trickle tower, but never had
Mhm.
moving bed.
Yeah.
That's strange to me because I feel like people who come from the aquarium hobby, all they think about is don't like my bio, like I'm so worried about my bio dying. It's like the number one thing more than anything.
I think the aquarium hobby it has its own like ranges, and like it's different if you have like a 10-gallon tank that's just sitting on your desk versus like a 100-gallon tank that has like a 50-gallon sump underneath it, and allows you to have all this different kind of filtration. When you get into like saltwater fish keeping and keeping corals and stuff, you're gonna have a bunch of different stuff that you don't have in freshwater. Or I mean, you could have it in freshwater, but nobody. I don't know if I'm making any sense.
No. I
So
think, yeah, you're making sense.
so
Go
like
ahead.
filter socks are a big thing with sumps, right?
Mhm.
But I've seen setups for saltwater where it's not like a drum, but it's like this filter. It comes on these big rolls, and it's like a piece of like fine mesh cloth that the water goes through, and it just will rotate and change itself. So you
Hmm.
always have this fine mat that the water's going through that's being changed constantly.
It's like when you go into the bathroom at the public restroom and you pull down on that paper towel, that towel roll thing, and it just rolls into itself, right? But I think they call that like a paper filter. I'm not totally sure, but they're starting to like try to implement that into like koi ponds too.
Really?
Mm,
Doesn't koi make too much waste for that though, maybe?
because it's constantly always unrolling and rolling up the dirty paper. So then you just put like a new cartridge in once it's like gone through that roll.
Oh, sounds expensive.
Yeah, but I think it's cheaper than RDF because it's not really like
Well,
I
I
don't
mean,
think the
like
automations. There's no like motors in it really.
in terms of maintenance though, like that maintenance that like you have to always change the cartridge. I feel like, but
But
what do
I
I
don't
know?
think it's that
If the
expensive.
initial
I don't know.
expense is low, then you could probably get hobbyists to go for it, because to me that initial cost of buying an RDF is like
Mhm.
Yeah, it's true. That
It's
is
huge.
true.
Yeah.
that. But if I could spread that out over 5 years of cartridge replacements, I might
Mhm.
be able to pull that off.
So I really do think that, well, I guess going back to your case, I think that it is a matter of how you use your equipment with what you have, because like you didn't really have much equipment either. So you were vacuuming your pond to get the poop out, but you were also, because you're vacuuming out the poop, you were also doing a water change. And I think that's one of the key things to getting fish to grow fast is
Yeah.
constant water change, which you were doing. How much water change were you doing daily between the food and the vacuuming? And yeah,
Probably 15%, between 10 and 20%.
between 10 to 20%, something like
every
that.
day. Yeah.
What was your filters?
So I went into a skimmer with a pump, and my skimmer was packed. Like there was no space in the skimmer. I had sponges right at the beginning of the skimmer. And then after the sponges, I went through a couple layers of the Matala mat, or Jap
Mm-hmm.
mat they call it, right? And then from there, I had where the pump chamber was, I had that crammed with bags of ceramic media.
Mm-hmm.
So then from there, and obviously now that's like my bio happening before any mechanical, so that had to be rinsed every day.
Every
Then
day.
from there, I take it back. So the sponges in the front had to be rinsed every day. This bio behind the sponges and the mats, those could be like once a week. And then from there, I went into a pressure filter.
Mm-hmm.
which is I did buy the biggest pressure filter that they make that I could find. And then from there, I went into a waterfall that had a pretty big biochamber, and that was packed with bio. So that was it.
And what do you
then,
have in your pond now?
So now I've got 2 bottom drains going to a sieve, going to a moving bed, into a UV, and then back to the pond.
I got distracted. Make you look like a cat for a second.
she did.
Because it
I had-
keeps biting me.
There a fly?
Yeah,
Yeah.
a mosquito, not a fly, a mosquito. It keeps biting me. I'm getting bit so much. Sorry.
I wanna
Really?
I wanna ask you about how you had to expand your bio, and then how you were testing the water, and then
All right.
calculating how soon it was. So if you're done fidgeting. So at a certain point, your fish started to get quite large in the pond, and you realized like the bio probably wasn't lacking. So you decided to add more bio by making like a moving bed filter to add into the pond. And
Right.
something I thought was really cool was when you were feeding your fish like to the limit and like charting like how the ammonia was like spiking, and then like timing like every, I don't know, how often were you testing them to like watch the fall of the ammonia and then the rise of nitrite?
Well, a few
There.
times a day because I wanted to see, how long it would take for the filter to do its job. And, I'm not comfortable until it gets to 0 overnight.
Mhm.
Throughout the day you feed and it's gonna go up and you'll see it on the test. And then if I still see it in the morning, I'm pissed.
Was that like you added 2 cubic feet of media or something like that and then waited for it to seed and all that?
That's right. So I bought some biomedia. It's called K2. It's like K1 micro, but
Mhm.
it's like an off-brand version. And at first I was like just in anticipation of making the new pond. I was like, let me mature my media because I hate new pond syndrome so bad that I really want to go in with some mature media, right?
Yeah.
And that's the one thing in the aquarium hobby that I always had the advantage. Like when I start up a new tank, just take some media from one of these other tanks and, you get a head
Yeah.
start. But with my pond, I didn't have that. So I was like, well, the next one, I'm going to get some media ready. So I got a trash can and put the biomedia in there and put some ammonia in there and started to get it mature. And then I realized, well, my pond needs this. And once I got like through that first level of it's clearing up some ammonia, I was like, why don't I just put this on the pond? So then that was the next idea, is to take that and just actually have it be a biochamber connected to the pond. So thank you for helping me with that. Devin,
Oh no,
Devin
no problem. It was
did
cool.
some- and then I did I had a little bit left over. I think I bought 6 cubic feet. So 2 cubic feet was in one trash can, and the other trash can I had 2 more that was offline getting ready. And basically for about a year I've been maturing that media. So now they're it's all in my biochamber now.
Yeah.
And nice and brown.
Nice.
Nice. I think I remember when we first visited your pond, and I guess now I can say it because we've known each other long enough and it's not the same pond anymore. But it was like, oh my God, this is not enough filter. That first pond had like a little skimmer and it was like crammed full of like media. And then it goes to that little pressure filter. That pressure filter was really small too. And
It's the biggest one you can buy.
but it was so small.
You know what? It was buried underground. It's actually bigger than it looks. I know that sounds like a terrible thing but it actually it's the biggest one you can get.
It's bigger than it looks.
Available on the market.
So here, I think it's smaller than an Ultima 2000, right?
Yeah, but it's also the internals are so different. The
Because-
inside of that pressure filter is it's like sponge filters.
I understand that it's not that it's different internally, but I'm just trying to say that it would fit inside a, what is it, 32-liter trash bin, right?
It probably
Yeah,
would fit
for
inside.
sure.
Equipment was not very robust.
You know what?
But-
I blame the people that sold it to me. I told them, look, I want to be able to overfeed my fish. And the people that have like garden style pawn shops,
they were thinking, oh, this guy's gonna feed his fish once a day.
Yeah, I think it is a matter of baseline too. They didn't quite understand your definition of I want to feed my fish a lot. Most people don't feed.
they don't
daily,
even,
apparently.
I think they sold me the best stuff they had though. They don't even,
Yeah.
they did not even have, what you see, like when you go to like, if you watch these the British koi shows and see all the filter options they have.
I was overwhelmed when I was at the Great British Koi Show. There were so many vendors and so many options. It was like, I don't know, like you could throw a stone and you'd hit somebody's proprietary RDF, right?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I'm not joking. There were so many drum filters and showers and stuff. Like the walls of this place just lined with all these different companies that make this stuff.
But even with not having like you had a water garden equipment, but your fish were never sick. You never had a problem with that.
There was a couple times where they were gonna get sick. Like I was observing them enough, all day, every day, where I could see that if I saw any sign of anything, I was like, oh, water change. In the aquarium, I'll be like, the water change fixes everything almost, or at least preventatively. I didn't want to do a water change every day. I just found that that's what was necessary.
And so it's just a matter of identifying what's necessary in order to achieve what you want to achieve. So, like I said, my favorite story to tell, because I really like it when people can beat the odds with what they've got. They make the most out of what they've got. And Alden was just here. We were talking to him. And he was at the Fresno show 2 weeks ago. And he was just like, he was telling us again, mind blown about how, the smallest fish won baby champion, and how like the smaller sizes won over
Quality won over size, basically.
Yes. The fish were conditioned so well that they were able to compete at their highest level. And I think that is what the koi hobby really is about, is pushing the limits of what you can accomplish with the resources that you have.
I was curious. We heard a little bit about the history. Woody told us that he had like 5 aquariums and that he just finished off his newest pond, and he had a pond before that. But as every pond keeper knows, there's always another pond or another previous one. So what got you into like having a pond or koi?
I've always wanted a pond. Even since I was a kid, I have a cousin who lives up in the country in Northern California, and we used to go fishing, and a lot of people have ponds up where he was, and so we would sneak into people's yards that had ponds and fish in them, or we were always just fishing all over the place. And so, when I became a homeowner, I was like, okay, I guess I get to do this, but I was really only allowed a little small corner of the yard to do it with. And so I did what I could with what I had. And at that point, I was already fantasizing about having nice Japanese koi. And I was learning. I remember, learning, okay, kohaku is this and ginrins means this, and not really being able to do it, so that was just this, I just lived in disappointment for 15 years. And
Oh God, that sounds so sad.
but that's also why I was so enthusiastic when I finally got to do it.
I don't know if it's a question or a comment, but you're talking about new pond syndrome. And it was this thing I think I had read about it. No, it was a friend I made online who lives in Denmark. When I was first trying to learn as much as I can from as many people as I could. When I jump started my pond, I had all of my fish in my other pond still. And so I ended up I was just I got a gallon, like a 1-gallon thing of just pure ammonia. And I was dosing my new pond with ammonia every day and checking the levels and just tracking how quickly I could get the biological filter fully established. And I didn't have to worry about the fish, with swings and different things happening. I guess the challenge though is can you overdo it? And then you have weird nitrite spikes and stuff because your biological media's dying off, or your biological filter is dying off once you put the fish in.
I think I did that once. I think I killed off my bio with too much ammonia last year. At one point when I was kind of eyeballing it, and I was putting ammonia every day, and it was cleaning it up every day. And then I was going to be gone for a week. So I was like, you know what? My bio's working. Let me just put a hope, because then if you don't feed it for a week, then it kind of starts to die off, right? So I thought, let me put a whole bunch in there. And when I came back, I still had raging high ammonia, and it crashed.
I read a scientific paper this year sometime about how when there's no ammonia available for the bacteria, it actually kind of just goes dormant and then waits for a food source to become available, and then it repopulates itself. And I think it can last 9 months or something. They tested it, which is wild.
That sounds
Think
right.
about it.
That sounds right. Yeah, that was probably not the right word to say it dies, but it does take time to bring it back to where it was.
Mm-hmm.
So when you overfeed it and it crashes, is that the same as it going dormant?
No, I think this was worse than going dormant, because it took me a while to bring it back this time.
That's what it
It also
sounds like.
happened when it was cooler, so that.
Oh, it's
that
more
was
difficult.
even worse.
Because again, the Philippines, when it's always hot, filters are always on. You don't, let the don't let the bio go dormant or anything like that over there. So pH crashes are a problem over there. Is that something that you would be worried about here?
Yeah, KH was one thing I never had to deal with in aquariums, because I was doing so many water changes that you're just putting fresh KH in every time. And so with the pond, before I started really doing a lot of water changes, I was doing just a little bit. And one day I checked my KH and it was 0.
Oh my God.
What?
My KH was 0, and I was like, is my test broken? So I went and tested my tap water. Tap water was 8.
Wow.
8 drops, whatever that means,
Yeah. It's
So-
143.2, I think.
So, now I'm on top of my KH.
Yep.
So you put 1 drop and immediately it was yellow? Or wait, is it? Yeah, yellow?
Yeah, it never turned blue. So, that was a close call. I think that, I could have had a catastrophe. I was right on the brink. Luckily, I didn't have any major problems.
So how did you know to look at KH? Because I remember when we figured out KH was the problem, it took us a while to figure that out. Was that something that you always knew?
No, I don't remember what it was that clued me into it. I know that, watching, the Brits who are like we said last time, they're obsessed about it. And so I had heard that come up, because they're tuned in to keeping track of their KH. It was on my radar through them.
Ty was surprised about how much baking soda that we used. Like both you and us, like we use a lot of baking soda to keep that KH.
And I would say me too now.
Yeah.
But I thought it was so funny because you were telling us like, oh, I'm using so much more baking soda, and they're like, yeah, that's what we use all the time, like in that period of time. And you're like, what? I'm not normal. I'm not unusual. And
I'm
it-
not special.
what were you using less before then?
I won't be embarrassed to admit this because I didn't know, but I didn't realize KH was a thing that I needed to be looking out for, right? For a while. I was just paying it, coming from, like Woody aquariums, right? I was just paying attention to like my ammonia, my nitrites, and my nitrates, and that's all I was really testing for.
I would say the same for me too. Like prior to moving out to California, I never looked at KH. Never needed to. Like our well water had like great carbonate hardness, was really hard water. Never had an issue with it. And then you come out here and it's like, why is this pH at 6 and the ammonia is at like 4, but the fish are just like, hey, can we have some food? Like they're chill, relaxed, and it's like, what is going on? Then you figure it out. I figured out it's just the carbonate hardness is so like low in certain areas out here, like in the source water, that it has to be buffered because otherwise it just gets consumed by the bacteria in the filter when it's converting like the ammonia to nitrite, nitrite to nitrate, and it just depletes it to a level where then it can't sustain the pH and it just drops.
Yeah, it's funny because we discovered it because Devin was doing maintenance on a customer's pond, and I think it took us a good month to figure out what was going on because Devin would come back from that maintenance and he's like, I don't get it. The ammonia is high, but the fish are healthy, but the pH is low. He never thought to look at the KH right away because I guess it was the curse of having perfect water. Like the curse of having, blessings. Yeah.
The curse of having blessings.
Hashtag blessed ?
Yeah.
So in Minnesota, this is something even like it's very nice to have well water. It was how deep? 100 feet into the ground? You guys would pump water out?
At least it might have been more. I can't remember exactly.
Yeah. But he would turn on the faucet to change the water. No need to dechlorinate, no need to condition the water. You just turn it on and let it run. So if we had to like put out sail tubs outside, just run the hose. That's it. And he never had to worry about anything else in the water.
What was the KH? The water.
I don't know. It was so high. Like it never tested it because it never had an issue. Probably like, like 8, something like that.
They had different issues, but water was never one of them. So he never had to manage the water per se. He just had to manage the conditions the fish were in. So I guess that's one thing that's the one good thing about having like limitations or challenges is that you really learn how to manage it. And it puts you in a situation where you have to understand how to make the most out of it. But yeah. So none of us knew about KH. We all had a problem then. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
Did you have a problem?
Yeah. I built this I have a 1,000-gallon stock tank. I was keeping in this like really terrible makeshift greenhouse I built in my backyard. And I wasn't doing any water changes because my garden hose was frozen solid because it's the middle of winter, right? But I was testing and watching my ammonia and my nitrites, all that stuff, and all the parameters were fine. And then one day, all the fish just took like a turn for the worst, and I could not figure out what was going on. And I ended up losing most of those fish that I had gotten in.
Did the pH crash or what happened? Or
Yeah,
you
the
never
pH
figured
had
out?
crashed.
Oh, it sucks.
Oof.
Yeah, because I wasn't, I wasn't paying attention to the KH.
Yep.
And the fact that I just had the same water in there, right? And all the KH was getting used up by the biological filter until it was depleted. And then, it's not, it was really not fun. I had a Sanke, a Nisei from Terrazzo I was really excited about, and I lost that one.
Oh, it
That was a
sucks.
bummer.
That sucks. That's a good way to remember KH, I guess.
Yeah.
The pain of that really cements it in your memory.
Yeah. Well, hopefully, maybe somebody who's listening to this podcast will learn from our mistakes.
So, Devin, what is your professional recommended KH?
I like to keep it between like 100 to 150 milligrams per liter, which
So
is
those
like
of us that use drops, I think in number of drops,
6 to 8.
Same.
6 to 8.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
Okay,
always
that's-
keep mine like 7 to 8.
I like
Yeah.
that. That's a pretty good amount. I feel like some people keep it lower. Like watching the British hobbyists, I think a lot of them are like down around 3 or 4.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Do they have reasons why?
Nope. I'm not gonna try to guess what it was. I don't remember.
But it's lower than what we do.
It's lower than I would have thought. Yeah.
Yeah, and if it's because it's coming out so low that if we have a good KH coming out, it's easier to level it out, keep it level, than to be always raising and having to add, even with fresh water, to have to add a lot of baking soda would suck. But
Yeah.
It's one of those things though, like you can throw in tons and tons of baking soda and it like the changes in KH don't actually like affect the fish. They don't feel that change at all.
That's what I was actually going to ask.
So yeah, it's
the pH will only raise to a certain point, right?
Exactly.
yeah. I did a test, I don't know, a month or so ago.
Hey, Devin, really quick, for people who don't understand this correlation between KH and pH, can you explain that and why buffering the KH helps you control the pH?
Mm-hmm.
So carbonate hardness is basically like the measurement of alkalinity, and pH at 7 is neutral. 7.1 and up is what do you call this? Basic, which is alkalinity, and then like 6.9 and under is acidic, or I think it's hydrogenous or something like that. But basically it's acidic. By adding alkalinity into the pond, it the pH is then able to support itself, like it has something to like rest on. Whereas if you erode that alkalinity out from it, then it's just going to drop down into like the acidic range.
So basically what he's saying is that KH acts like a buffer to keep the pH stable. KH helps keep the pH supported, and so it doesn't allow it to drop. If your KH goes too low, then your pH will just drop. Fish are super sensitive to pH changes. Even just a little bit of change, the fish will respond, the fish will react, and not in a good way.
Yeah. Yeah, changes in pH, like for every point, what is it? Every 1, it's like 100 times difference or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it gets exponentially more different by each like 0.1, 0.2, 0.3 as it changes. And the reasons why the pH can change is, like I said, the biofilter consumes alkalinity in the nitrification process. And also, like, as the fish are like exhaling, they're giving off like carbon monoxide, which is like a form of acid, which is then also going to help like erode alkalinity and pH. So you can counter that too by having aeration in your pond. The more aeration you have, the more it helps like sustain like a higher pH. Because you help them
Or buffer. So even if you have a super high KH, it's not going to push the pH back past a certain point.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I did an experiment a month ago or so where I took like I don't know, a shot glass worth of water, and I put like a whole tablespoon of baking soda in it, and not all of the baking soda didn't even dissolve. It just didn't have any more capacity to absorb like the carbonate hardness, so it just stayed like a powder on the bottom of the glass. And pH stayed at 8.1 or 8.2, I think is what it was. And I tried to measure the alkalinity, but I gave up at 40 drops, and it still hadn't changed.
You tried to measure the KH.
Or sorry, the K. Yeah, well, alkaline to KH, yeah.
Yeah.
And I gave up at 40 drops.
40 drops. That's insane. And
Yeah,
that
it's
doesn't hurt the fish, right? Having that high of a KH.
I mean, it was
promise.
really hard to actually get your pond water to that high.
Is that a challenge?
Somebody should go out there and do it. Let us know how your fish react. But honestly, I don't think anything would happen.
Not that you know of.
Yeah.
It doesn't, like, theoretically, you don't know that it would affect it negatively.
Mm-hmm.
But in practice, we don't know.
Yeah.
I've watched on YouTube most of the videos that are available about the nitrogen cycle and new pond syndrome, and I found this fish farming YouTube channel of this Russian guy, and he gave the most in detailed I've seen in how to start a new filter system, and they're doing it on huge scale. I think he's setting up industrial fish farms, and he did recommend, of course he talks about temperature and all that, but I think he said keep your KH at 9.
Yeah, it makes sense.
I'm really curious to see how higher KH affects it. Because koi are sensitive to most changes, like temperature change, pH change. I wonder how changes in KH affect them and how high pH.
You could do an experiment by putting a koi in a bowl and then just adding tons of baking soda to the bowl.
Why is it that koi, which are carp and are supposed to be super hardy, more fragile than tissue paper?
I don't know, because sometimes it seems like they are super hardy. Like, they can jump out of the pond and be like dry to the touch. You can throw them back in, like their tail's gonna fall off because it dried out too much, but it'll grow back in a year, and then they're fine. And other times it just seems like you look at them wrong, and they're like, "I don't like how you looked at me. I'm gonna go get like a huge infection."
Yep.
Inbreeding.
Actually, there might be something to that, Woody, because koi are very much man-made.
Sure.
They don't breed for hardiness, they breed for beautiful color, beautiful patterns, beautiful body shape, has hardiness. I'd like to see them breed a little hardiness into them and longevity too. It's like,
what are they called? Magoi? What do you call actual carp?
Yeah, they call them magoi.
Yeah, magoi. Do they just need to start throwing some more magoi into the parenting?
I think you just have to not like that fish, and that fish is not going to die ever.
Somebody was just telling me about like how Konishis like breeding karashigoi into like all of their varieties.
Yeah, that was me. I could
okay.
a video. I've been watching those Konishi videos, and like they'll show a kohaku. It says Karashi kohaku. It looks like a kohaku, but they're breeding. That's the impression I got, is that they're breeding Karashi into almost all their other varieties. And I think they're doing it for size. But it'd be nice if they can get some friendliness into them, because that's one of my favorite things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the Gosanki are just like, oh, you don't like me? You don't want to be my friend? But really, they're just shy. They're more scared, I think.
You're so nice, Woody.
But like, getting to it though, like, I would say well, it's hard to say, because when I first got into koi as like a professional, that was like where they had like the emergence of like new hole disease, is what they called it. Like koi were starting to get bacterial infections like in their operculum, which is like the gill plate, and like big stuff like through the fins and stuff. And prior to that, they'd never really seen anything like that. It's difficult to say where that came from, but I know like even in other industries of aquaculture, they have issues with like bacteria that's like getting more and more difficult to treat. And it might be just from overuse of like antibiotics and stuff like that. I know I've talked to like my vet before in the past, and she's said they have even like the issues with like their saltwater aquarium where they have like sharks and stuff like that. They're having a hard time treating like some infections and stuff because they see like a lot of antibiotic resistance because of just overuse of antibiotics or improper use, stuff like that. So a lot of like that trade is like switching over to trying to find other treatments and stuff, like more of like oxidizers and things of that nature, where like it's not really trying to, I guess, attack the antibiotics directly, but like sterilize like the environments that they're in. Like if you have like excessive bacteria in the water, trying to like kind of eliminate those types of things. And then it by creating like better environments for the fish to be in, you're then seeing like the fish's natural immune response able to like fight back better against infection. And I think that's kind of the route a lot of stuff is going. It's just promoting better like husbandry, better environments, cleaner environments, so that the fish can like fight stuff on their own, as opposed to relying solely on just like antibiotics.
Something that is interesting to me,
Mhm.
because, with YouTube and all my friends who are over there in the UK, I see a lot of differences in the koi hobby between the US and the UK. And all the
Mhm.
time, I feel like they're like leaps and bounds ahead of us in all these different things. But they don't have any fish veterinarians over there.
Yeah, that's wild.
That's crazy.
You would think, because there's huge aquaculture operations that they run those like big pens out in the ocean and stuff there. You'd think they have to have like a aquatic vet on staff for that. But maybe they just don't do private house calls and they only work.
They're probably busy working full time for a big company.
Yeah.
That is true.
Probably. When we were talking to Aaron, when we were on Hold My Net, that other show,
Mm-hmm.
you guys came on and guested with us. We were talking about the fact that to sell koi fish over there, you have to have a pet shop license, right? And what actually is entailed with that, because there's somebody who will come to your facilities and check everything like on a regular basis and like ask you all these questions about the condition of the fish and all these things, right? Just to be able to, uh, like on the books properly sell fish. But they don't have any veterinarians, because we don't have anything like that here in the US where you have to have like a pet shop license,
Yeah.
right? Do you?
Yeah. No, we don't.
No,
We don't.
business license.
It was
like,
really interesting to me because the level of quality control that they required from a regular pet shop, and specifically for the fish, are the same requirements that they had for us to be able to export koi overseas. That's like
Mhm.
that's like high level, that's international
Yeah.
standard just to operate a pet shop. That's not even exporting. Like they have to keep records of their water quality that they take, and they have to take those measurements. They actually have to take it and put it down on, I think
Yeah,
it was
but-
weekly or monthly basis, something like that. All else I remember was thinking that the level of record keeping and showing like their SOPs and all that stuff was the same requirements that we had as an export facility
Mhm.
to to other countries.
Yeah.
So that's wild. But like you said, no fish vet. I wonder if it's like what he mentioned, a case of just there being too much work for too few fish vets, because there's no koi vet per se that's exclusively with koi. Maybe a few here and there, but for the most part, most fish vets here or koi vets here are fish vets for more than just koi. They like the
Yeah.
fish vet that you were speaking with was for the aquarium
Yeah.
in Minnesota and all that stuff. Yeah.
Well, I think we've had a lot of really great discussion tonight.
Yeah.
I have one more question. for Ty.
Yeah.
How long was
Oh.
your new pond syndrome? How long did that?
Didn't you ask him that?
No, I didn't. I asked Woody. He said 6 weeks.
Ah.
Oh
He
yeah. I
never
was
wants to hear
talking
the
about.
answer to your questions.
Boo! Down with Ty.
I think it was 3 weeks.
Wow.
3 weeks?
Yeah.
You had another pond going, so you had some mature media.
Oh, I see. Makes sense. Okay. I believe you.
Yeah. I had a little bit to help get it started, but
Mm-hmm.
I really do think when you can push the ammonia, just using ammonia and not having to feed the fish and have them produce ammonia to cycle everything, you can do it a lot faster when the fish aren't in the way. And you don't have to worry about their safety with the ammonia levels. And then I had like 14 fish that got transferred over. So I had a good enough bioload that they were creating that I could just sustain what I needed to for my biological filter once they got moved over.
I'm wondering if you were you expecting to have no cycle? I mean, if you were putting good amounts of ammonia in, I would think you might expect to not have a new pond syndrome.
That was my hope and my plan. Yeah, I didn't want to deal with new pond syndrome.
But you did have it nevertheless. So I'm wondering how much of that was
Well, okay, what do we define as new pond syndrome?
you're having ammonia and nitrite.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, yes, I did. But I've always thought of that as like, but you have fish in the pond and you're trying to balance and keep them safe and deal with all of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't have any fish in the pond.
Oh, so you fishless cycled for 3 weeks.
So your new
Well,
pond
that was the
syndrome
3
was
weeks.
without.
Okay. So
Alright.
so once you put the fish in, there was no new pond
Yeah,
syndrome.
there was no issues once I put the
Okay.
fish in. Everything was like smooth sailing.
Okay, so that was the misunderstanding. So new pond
fun.
syndrome, you were using that to describe fishless cycling.
Yes.
I guess you could say it was a fishless new pond syndrome.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we get it now.
Here's Ty. Ty is proving that two things can be simultaneously true.
Yeah.
You don't need to have fish to have a new pond syndrome.
You don't need fish to have new pond syndrome. And that's what this show is all about.
Mhm.
I thought new pond syndrome was having a brand new pond and not enough fish in it. So that's what you call when you're out, binge shopping koi.
Binge shopping koi.
That's like a standard state for most koi keepers, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's not when the pond's new. That's always, huh?
That's always, right?
Not when you want to stay married.
Oh, come on. You're still window shopping, Ty. You know it.
You know what? At 2 a.m, right? I go outside and I go into my filter room, right? Don't turn any lights on, anything. And that's when I start looking at koi.
You see?
Yeah.
Even the best of us. So, shall we sign off?
Yep.
Mickey, will you sign us off?
Yeah, you gonna lead us in prayer?
Dear koi, grant me the serenity to accept the sumi I cannot change, the courage to choose my koi, and the wisdom to remember to turn off the hose and not kill my husband.
That's not there.
Amen.
Amen.
Well, thank you for listening. Catch you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye.